I'm Patrick Sullivan, this is Recurring Insight, and for this episode I'm going to be talking about Demonic Tutor. Demonic Tutor is one of Magic's most iconic designs, given that it was printed in the first set, how simple it is, how aspirational it is, and its perceived power level. And it is really strong, but it actually doesn't take that much to turn Demonic Tutor into a palatable design for standard level play, in spite of its association with things like Black Lotus and Ancestral Recall.
When I talked about Time Twister, I mentioned that as a new player that my mind was blown. And a lot of that has to do with just the sheer amount of stuff that's going on with it. And Demonic Tutor is also a mind-blowing design, but in the opposite way. It's so simple and so easy to understand, but the possibilities are really endless. And not only is it very appealing to imagine just being able to get the best card at all times, it also makes setting up 2 and 3 card combos a lot more reliable. Demonic Tutor is not really that far off on rate. It's not a perfect way of doing this sort of example, but you can imagine adding mana to some of the iconic restricted cards in Alpha and see how long it takes you to get something that would be a reasonable bet for standard level play. But we've had Diabolic Tutor legal in standard formats from time to time, and it really doesn't show up ever. And when it does, it's usually because there's some mana cheat going on, like Cabal Coffers. So the card isn't really off by that much, and also in Booster Draft, tutor effects are typically pretty modest. There's a distortion going on with Demonic Tutor where it's really only legal in Vintage, and because that's a format filled with so many power level outliers, and because so many of those power level outliers are restricted, Demonic Tutor is doubly problematic, both on rate and as providing a distortion for the reliability of finding restricted cards. But it really wouldn't take all that much to make the design, I think, reasonable for standard level play. The easiest thing to do is to add some mana. Another route that you can go is restrictions on the card types that it can find. I think Eladamri's Call is really instructive here. And you're looking at a 2-color card, so the opportunity cost is a lot higher. And also, it can only find a subset of cards. And it's not like it's a 0 for combo decks. To the extent that it shows up in Modern, it's often for facilitating combo decks. But you can see in that example pretty easily that with a couple very subtle changes to the design, it becomes something that's suddenly very palatable for Modern, and probably wouldn't even be that problematic in most standard formats as well. So those are really the two paths. You can either lengthen the runway, like Diabolic Tutor does, or a suspend design, so your opponent has more time to brace themselves, and it's hard to both tutor and do the thing in the same turn, or restrict it to a subset of things. So Demonic Tutor, I think, is a really cool card to unpack because it's so simple and so aspirational, and it's on the list of obvious power level outliers. You could never do this. It's associated with all the best and most powerful restricted cards from Alpha, but it really isn't off by that much in terms of power level, if not play pattern. And I think Wizards' attempts to find more modest ways of making Demonic Tutors over the years has been energy well spent.
Again, that was Demonic Tutor, and this is Recurring Insight. Make sure that you're subscribed to the Star Sea Games YouTube page so you can get notified when new videos get uploaded, and keep the comments coming. I've been pretty persistent digging through and trying to find the ones that come up multiple times as requests. The next one in the queue for next week is going to be exactly that, so keep the requests coming, keep the comments coming, and hopefully I'll get around to your card soon.